Hello, everybody. It's Wednesday, 19th of July, 2023, and we are here and ready to talk about time of trust. Time of trust is a wonderful topic in which nowadays is something we need. And of course, thank God I'm not alone here. I have these two best friends here. And good evening, Miss Gibbons. How are you, my dear?
I'm very well. Good evening, everyone. I'm well, and I hope everyone is well too. And, in a nice place emotionally and also physically. And it's an interesting topic today, as usual. And there's lots to meditate on. So, hello, Steven, and hello, Charles, and hello, everyone. Boa tarde a todos que estão conosco ou que vão entrar ainda. Hoje nós vamos falar sobre um tópico bem interessante para a gente meditar. Espero que todos estejam bem, na paz do Senhor. Thank you.
Great. Bonsoir, Charles.
Bonsoir Stevan, bonsoir Silvia, bonjour, bonsoir à tous. Très heureux d'être à nouveau parmi vous aujourd'hui pour parler aujourd'hui de ce sujet de la confiance et de la foi. Hello, good morning, good evening, everyone. Very happy to be here again with you today to talk about trust and faith.
Great. Okay, let's jump to our video here. Let me share my screen. Let's see. Okay.
Starts when we start comparing ourselves, and comparison can be very enlightening, but also can be very detrimental. When we compare ourselves to great works, yeah, perhaps we want to do better, but sometimes we compare ourselves to great works and we think that we don't do nothing, we don't have any value compared to the great works. But then when we see that the little that we can do perhaps can bring a change, can make a change, and it's okay. Sometimes that little that we can offer can go many, many ways, right? And can go, different ways, and that we can even imagine. We often bring back the parenting situation. We often don't give any value to the times that our parents lost sleep. A mother loses sleep with a child, and that goes unnoticed. And it's the same thing. A mother can feel sometimes that perhaps if the kid does something wrong later on in life, that she didn't do a good job. She did an amazing job, but it was just a matter of how valued those little moments were. We are creations of the Creator, yet we're all destined to happiness, to be free of this illusion that we don't have any value.
Okay.
Hansel was able.
Okay, so time of trust. The trust we are talking about here today, it is mainly the trust in yourself, the trust in your values, the trust in your mind, the trust in your ability to do something, your trust in your will to accomplish something, to reach a certain goal. And as you can see, you are the piece, the most important piece in this entire engine. But in order to work, we need to trust in ourselves. We need to rely in our decisions We need to have faith, not faith in terms of religion, faith in terms of I do believe in myself, I do believe in my abilities, I do believe in my capability. That's the faith we're talking about here. In order to start, Charles, is faith divine or human?
That's a good question. Short one, but good. Again, it's a question of understanding of the word faith. Okay. One of the most known faith is, do you have faith in God, for instance? You have faith. Do you have faith in the divinity? So this means, do you, human, have faith in the divinity? Okay, so you see by this very short remark that it is both. Huh? Divinity is in what you have faith, and the human is the one who has the faith. Because it does not make a lot of sense to ask the question like, does God have faith? This question has no meaning, basically. So we have to understand it in this way. But what is very interesting, and building on what you just told as introduction, Stevan, is in the concept of faith itself has changed over time, because we have been used during centuries, millenniums, to have or to build or to seek religious faith, which means you have faith in something that is written somewhere, or that someone has told, or whatever, even if you don't understand that thing. So it is the so-called blind faith. You just have faith in something, for instance, in the existence of the divinity, and in other dogmas of the religions, because it is part of the religion you adhere to. The problem is, with the time, the people are getting evolving, progressing intellectually and also morally, thanks God. And a lot of more and more people, I would say, are not satisfied anymore with this type of approach. They simply do not trust anymore in something without understanding what they trust in, and what are the motivations of the people who are asking them to trust in something. Okay. So this, it was then having more and more people asking more questions, willing to understand before believing. And since this happened with me when I was younger, educated Catholic, I did not receive the answers I was legitimately asking for. And I took naturally some distance from the religion and lost what we told, the faith in the religion. And it came back later on when I opened the first time the Spirit's Book of Allan Kardec, because there I could see the approach is completely different. Okay, the approach of the Spiritist body of knowledge is understand first, and you will believe in it later if you want to. Okay, so not asking you to believe in something blindly, but asking for you to think about, to make your mind, to use this reason and this common sense that God has given to each of us, to draw the conclusions we are capable to draw, and only then go to the faith. So it's not anymore the blind faith, it is the reasoned faith, or the faith which is based on understanding of things. It's like if you ask me, do you believe in the law of universal gravitational attraction? Yes, okay. The sun and the earth are attracting one the other, and the sun is turning, and the attraction is compensated by the centrifugal force, and having then all the calculations giving exact result of whatever we are observing in nature. Okay, so basically we have an understanding of it. So we have faith that the gravitational forces are a reality. Even so, their intrinsic nature is not yet determined by science. Nobody has never seen the rope or the elastic, which is between the sun and the earth, making this attraction. The gravitational forces are known quantitatively, but they are not known qualitatively. Nobody knows. There is some hypothesis like the graviton particles that no one has observed so far. Even so, we believe in it. So this means we have a kind of a faith. We understand it, so we believe in it. So this is part of the reasoned faith. And why do I tell you this example? Because in the spiritist body of knowledge, it's as I told already, a disruption, okay, a big change, okay, because we are so far in a materialistic box, believing only in what we are seeing, only the tangible matter and so on. And now, all of a sudden, by the reasoning, by observing some paranormal or mediumistic phenomenon or psychic phenomenons, we are seeing that there is probably, much probably, there is a convergence of proofs that there is something else than just the matter, which is basically the spirit. So a lot of people are seeing this and understanding this. Yet, do all of them make this jump from the understanding to the faith in really believing that we have a soul and that this soul is surviving? That is then another thing. I know some people who, okay, yes, I understand your arguments and so on, but I don't believe in it. You see, so this is where these people have the lack of this small trigger, the change of paradigm, the change resistance or whatever is blocking them. Lack of faith to make this jump into this disruption, into this totally new concept, which is much, much more open, explaining a lot of things, giving a much brighter view about ourselves, about the human reality.
Yeah, I agreed with you, my friend. The reason of faith, we perhaps know the words, but we don't know how to work with it, how to live with it, how to apply it.
Applying it on ourselves. And that is sometimes one part of this resistance.
Yeah.
I have the comfort, I have my habits, I have this, I have that, and I'm not ready to change. And there are lots of examples in the gospel about this. People, yes, Jesus, I admire a lot what you are doing. What shall I do now? And Jesus told to this young rich man, okay, sell everything you have and follow me.
Wait
Oh,
a
no,
minute.
first
No,
do what I'm teaching. Yes, I'm be good. I do charity. I do this. I do that. What shall I do more? Okay, sell everything you have and follow me. And then the young man was not ready to do it. So he did not have yet this the capability, the necessary faith to make that quantum jump.
Yeah, exactly. So good evening, Marco Davis, Camila Lanzillo. Well, good evening, my friends. And now other friends, I can see we have many friends online here with us. Good. Yeah, follow that story. Let's go now to Miss Gibbons in order to believe in the faith. I think we do have a great example. My dear, Jesus, after calming the storm and calm down the frightened disciples who were on the boat during the storm. Because remember, he was sleeping. There was a huge storm, and I think it was Peter wake Jesus up and said, "Hey, we're gonna sink." No, and Jesus said, "Where is your faith? What do you?" And after this, we do have another example when they saw Jesus walking on the waters, and Peter said, "Okay, if it's you, I go with you." So Peter starts to walk, and then he starts to sink. We are not talking about if this is happening or not happening. We're just using here the example to understand and to ask you, my dear, what do you think he meant when he asked to the disciples that question? Where is your faith?
Yes, it's like Charles said, it's a very simple question with a very complex answer because there are so many ways of looking at this. Um, and, it was in the same close passage that Jesus came to them and they were in the boat. And, he went to sleep and the storm, and they were terrified to the point that they went to wake him up. And Jesus calmed down the storm and everything, and they were afraid because they thought even the winds obey this man.
Mhm.
um, and he said, where is your faith? And I think this is a question that we ask ourselves in our lives. It hasn't gone to only to the disciples, because you could see it like they didn't know the person they were with, even though they were living with Jesus, walking with him, seeing the miracles one after the other. And they had, after this, actually, if I'm not mistaken, was before, he went to Gadara, and they had seen a major miracles that Jesus had done. And yet, they were sort of afraid. And they didn't trust themselves or what they believed in. They believed in God for sure. They were, all in all, although they were simple men, but they had some religious feelings within them. Otherwise, Jesus wouldn't have chosen them. But when it came to the most difficult times, they couldn't trust themselves that God would look after them. And I think this is one of the things, because I think what Jesus meant to say is that you have faith that God will be there to help, that we are never alone. And at the most difficult times, that we have to have that strength, and also not only faith in God, but faith in ourselves. Because I think this is a very important point that you both made before, in the sense that, first of all, we need to have faith in ourselves, that we can overcome, that we can do things, that we are prepared to make changes in our lives. Because a question of trust, a question of, faith nowadays is so, everything's that used to weigh a lot. Nowadays, everything seems to be so light and dismissed. But this is a profound knowledge, something inside you that really gives you that force, that strength. And we needed to have that at the really very, very difficult times, is when we're feeling that we are lost, that we are in such a battle that we cannot fight alone. I
Mhm.
think those are the times that we need to hold on to something, to have the faith and the trust that we are not alone, that someone is there. And I think, in a way, if you look, we doubt. I always remember the words of that message, the footsteps in the sand. That he looks and he only sees one set of steps, And then he says, and I ask God, the moment that I needed you most, you were not there for me. And he said, no, I was scaring you then.
Trying you.
That's why you only see the 2 feet. But, and I think that's so much in our lives, not only in relation with faith in God, in ourselves, in people we know, in our family, in our friends. We are constantly being questioned on that. And I think, many times it's a moment of stop, because I think this passage from the gospel, this parable, well, that's not a parable, that's a passage in the gospel in which Jesus, he calmed the storm. And then he said, where is your faith? Where is your feeling that you could do something about? Because I think one of the things as well, when we start doubting ourselves that we are able to do something, we don't do anything. We just sit there, and if you think, maybe that's what the disciples did. They started running around, because that's what you do when you're scared, and screaming, and not trying to hold on to the sails, or try to get the ropes, or something. They were just frightened. And I think that's the thing that Jesus wanted to call the attention to, because when we get very frightened, very confused, lacking in faith, we feel that we are not able to do it. We cannot reach out to someone to help us. And we cannot trust that God is there to help us and support us. And many times, when we have these moments of doubt and confusion in our lives, that we are having to decide something, we have to take, decisions that some will change our lives, but others are just decisions, and we postpone it and we postpone it, because we don't trust that we can find the right way to do something.
Yeah.
Or we cannot trust that we'll be able to cope with the consequences of what we're doing, or what we need to do. So in a way, once we lose faith in ourselves, everything falls down. It's like a house of cards, isn't it? You would have one out and everything falls. And I think this question, where is your faith, is something that has come throughout the times, throughout the millennia. If we ask ourselves in any situation in life, where is my faith? How do I feel? Will I be able, if I feel I cannot do by myself, who can I ask to help me? Can I pray as well? Can I do this? And I think that's what he really, that we need to have faith and to hold on to things at the hardest times. Because usually when everything is going well, we don't think about God, or we don't think about anything really. We just go in our merry way. There is a passage actually in Surah 48, if I'm not mistaken, of the Quran, that he talks about prayer. And he said, when you're happy, you don't pray, you don't even remember that God exists or anything. But as soon as tragedy, because the Quran has a beautiful language, actually, but it says, as soon tragedy comes into your life, you melt yourself in prayers, And I think this is so true,
Yeah.
because then we remember God, and then, of course, nobody helped me at that time. And you were helped. We have no idea how many spiritual benefactors came around us to, give you those little ideas how we solve a problem. Just say, hold on, be strong. And I always remember there is a passage in the gospel that I think talk about the poor people in the streets and everything. And I think it's a person of Caritas, if I'm not mistaken. And he goes to the person, hold on, be strong. God's with you. They go to those people who are losing hope, who are desperate, who are completely feeling unable to do anything. And he goes to them, he said, "Hold on, God is with you. He's looking after you. Have courage. give strength, and at the same time they talk to other people to help them, and I think we hear those voices so many times. But and then afterwards, if we are able to, oh yeah, I was really good then, I had all these ideas and I solved the problem. But if we had the trust, I think, if nothing else, to believe that we are never alone, that there is support, there is help, there is something, um, helping us there. And sometimes the help will come through friends, through even strangers will give you,
Yeah.
will say something that will say, oh yes, that maybe is a good thing. So faith in ourselves is very, very important. And faith, and like the question you ask, Charles, faith is both human and both divine, and it's something that you cannot give, you cannot impose, you cannot, is only, you have to acquire it yourself. There's a poem, I think, by Fernando Pessoa, that he talks about this person who doesn't believe in anything. It's, oh, I don't believe this, I don't believe, and then he said, believe, believe in something, because otherwise you won't be able to survive in this world. And, even people who say they don't believe, I think you said something about that, Stevan. He takes a bus, he takes the tube, he flies a plane. He believes that the people driving the plane, the train, whatever,
Exactly.
know what they are doing, So it's, oh, I don't believe in anything. No, you're wrong. You do believe in something. Otherwise, you would never fly or anything like that. So it's a very important question for us to ask ourselves, especially when we are at the crossroads in our lives, when, feel overwhelmed by difficulties, by problems, by think we need to probably this side, that way, which path shall I and a little humility will go a long way, because I think faith's also having a little humility, that we are not, although we have faith in ourselves, at times we need help. So that's what I think.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with you, my dear. We must have a faith. Uh, but the point is, we need to. The worst thing that happens to us, it is fear, because fear
He's a
don't
structure.
allow us to progress, don't allow us to go further, don't allow us to evolve, don't allow us to live. Because all the time you are fear of this, fear of that. So, and faith, what the faith we are talking here is exactly the opposite of this. But then we have the what Charlie says. Okay, faith is one thing, but what is your reason of faith? Reasonable faith, let's use Kardec here. Understand the pros and cons, and then make a decision. You not just go, oh, God's gonna help me. Well, of course He's gonna help you, but it's your decision if you jump from a rock without a parachute, even God helping you.
Yeah, but there is that story as well, isn't it? Actually, somebody was telling me the other day this story. I think she read it somewhere, of this man who was in a boat. Was it in a boat, or he was in some situation, and no, he was caught by the waves or something, and he went, and they said, "Please, God, help me! Please, God, help me!" And then somebody came with a boat and he started shouting at him, come, you
Oh,
know.
yeah, I know the
And
story.
you know the story, so he didn't know, because God is going to help me. And then
Exactly.
something else happened as well. Somebody, is trying to help. No, God is going to help me. Then of course he drowned. And then he came and said to God, you didn't help me. I sent you 2 boats and something else, and you didn't take it, because God will help us in different ways. He's not, of course, he's not coming down, but through people,
Yeah.
it will be that hand that's there to help us at that time. That's
Yeah.
how he will help us.
Yeah, and has a connection with the video we saw today. We need to value ourselves. We have a value. Like in this meeting, we do have a value. In your work, you have a value. In your house, you have a value. In your friends, in a group of your friends, you do have a value. Everyone has a value. So we needed to take advantage of this. Of course, these walks side by side with selfishness. But then when we have the reasonable faith will not allow us to move the swing line and go to 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 the selfishness. So, Charles, if you start to have faith, do you think that faith it is contagious?
Yes, in a certain way, yes, because again, as you explained also, when you have faith in what you try to do, you have more chances to succeed in what you are doing. Okay, so the people which are around you, they look at it and they learn from it. So faith, yes, is contagious. And by the way, blind faith as well is contagious, because
Yeah.
you have religious groups which join together around the same blind faith. So it is indeed contagious. Yes. And yeah, I mean, it's so obvious. No? The spiritist body of knowledge is explaining how the faith works, huh? Because we know from the spiritist body of knowledge that our thoughts turn into reality in the spiritual world. Okay, the so-called ideoplasty. For instance, the magnetizers, or the people who have the faculty to cure some diseases, they have this faculty only because they have the strength of their thought. Huh? The hypnotizers, the same. They have the strength of their thought in order to suggest what they want to suggest to the subject which is getting hypnotized. So we have today evidences which are clearly explained by the spiritist body of knowledge how the face is working. Our thoughts are emitting some type of thought waves, which are being transmitted through the universal cosmic fluid exactly to the person which we are thinking about, for instance, even if it's a deceased person. And this new reality is really adding on in the understanding of the power of thoughts, how it works, and how we can succeed, for instance, in healing or in some other action like this. And this, of course, as when you understand it, is also somehow contagious, because the people, by understanding how it works, they are, of course, stronger in order to try to apply it. You were talking about fear, Stevan. Human being has fear about what human being doesn't know. Huh? Generally, we have fear about what we don't know. Huh? If, for instance, there is a fire now surging in front of us, we have fear and we run away. Huh? But the fireman, he has no fear because he knows he has his intelligence makes him understand the risks, what are the elements of the fire, how to fight it, and he is replacing the fear through an action which is driven by intelligence. So, and this intelligence is, of course, also giving him the faith and the courage in order to proceed in acting on somewhere where most of the people are just running away.
Yeah, it's important, and the people today are quiet. So, is there an exercise we can do in order to work this faith?
Yes,
say,
as I just explained, the fireman worked his faith for fighting against fire through his intelligence. That's one way to work through it. I think the blind faith is always weak. Okay, and the blind faith has also another risk, which is fanaticism. Some blind faith, not all the blind faith are good or trustable or positive. You have the people who are manipulated can be manipulated and induced to make negative things. Okay, so we need to have today to use our intelligence everywhere, not only in philosophy like a spiritist body of knowledge or in religious aspects. We need to have to exercise our discernment daily, because with all these fake news and whatever which are running through the social media, the TVs and information, if we don't make the difference between what is true and what is false, if we don't apply the Socratic filter, is it true, is it good, and is it useful for the moment, we are like a dead leaf flying, turning in the wind of in fall. So it is something that we really need to have. And yes, the faith can be developed, can be acquired through intelligence, but not only. As I explained at the beginning, there is a trigger. We need a little bit something more in order sometimes to make a quantic jump. And Silvia told about it. It's humility. If we stay too rigid in what we are thinking and are huge resistance to change, sometimes we may even understand things, but we will not follow them. So the faith needs humility in order to be strengthened, amongst others, but there may be, of course, a lot of other ways to develop the faith.
Yeah.
And there is this famous sentence of Kardec, unshakable faith is that which can stand face to face with reason in all epochs of humanity. And this is really the sentence written on the cover page of the Gospel according to Spiritism.
Yeah, I agree. I agree very, very what you are saying, Charles. But for example, I like what Michael just wrote, and he said, my faith, it's my responsibility. So he touched here a very good point, because we don't take responsibility from our actions. We always want something, but we We forget that the action and reaction law applies always. And instead of saying, raise the hand and say, hey, I did it, I screw up here, I did this wrong, we start to blame. So the point is how I will have faith in myself if when I make a mistake, I don't have the ability to say, oh, sorry, I screw up, apologies, it won't happen again, or help me to resolve this problem, help me to become a better person. But what we do, we don't assume that responsibility and we blame the others, we point the fingers to the other. Poor God is the one who always receives, oh, it's God's fault, it's God. No, I think like sometimes he's there than me. Why pointing fingers to me? So, my dear Silvia, what do you think? It's
Well,
how to be how to balance faith and responsibility.
I think first of all is, like the quotation that from Kardec that Charles just reminded us, which I always think is very, very important, because when he says unshakable faith will stand face to face.
Yeah.
You're not to be laughed at, will not be criticized, because he will not touch you, because that's something. And I think this is part of our spiritual growth and development. It's something that we work on us, that we feel that. And I think, part of, we always doubt ourselves somehow. And it's very important for us to understand, because I think one of the things that it says in the gospel, that we do not, to have real faith, we do not only need to see, but we need to understand it. We have to have reason, as is intelligence, rationality, because blind faith, if you have blind faith, when someone shows you the light, you think, oh yes, you're right, and they go this way, that way, that way. And someone who has real faith does not change, because they have faith in what they believe. And I think in terms of moral things and everything, and there is always somehow within us this kind of sometimes we doubt. And I think, when Jesus said, there are some passages in the gospel that's so good, that one, Jesus said, if you have faith like a grain of mustard, you tell this mountain to move and it will move, and there is another one as well that's very really makes you think, when this man brings his son who's terrible problem, with obsession and everything. And he said, oh, I brought them to your disciples and they couldn't do anything about it. And then Jesus said, until when do I have to bear it with you? Why? All this lost generation. And then he rebuked the devil, or whatever, they call the devil, but it was the spirit. And then the disciples come to him and said, how did you do it? Because we couldn't do it. And said, because of your lack of faith. And we see this in so many things. And the question is not even faith in anything, but faith in themselves, that they knew enough to be able to help that person, and in those two or three passages, Jesus tells, and then he says, you are gods, you can do everything I do and more. So he's already telling us that is within us, we have the strength. But I think we needed to cultivate it within ourselves, because, as it's mentioned before, faith cannot be imposed, faith cannot be forced on someone. But people who have real faith, you feel it. There's something, they have some kind of strength, inner strength, and some kind of joy that is contagious. You feel it. And I have met in my life two people who were like that. My grandfather was, he didn't like anything to do with religion. I must say, he didn't like anything to do with religion. But I have never met someone who had this a stronger faith in God and in what is good than my grandfather did. He didn't go to church or anything, but he had that. And I think another person who felt that you felt safe around her was my mother. She had faith. The things could be, and sometimes life was very hard, and she had this thing that no, God will help us, and we're going to go through it. Everything is going to be all right. It will go. Have courage. We're going to do it. And we felt safe because we knew somehow, I don't know why, but she probably inside had worries, but we felt safe, and we could know, yes, we're going to do it, and we did it. We overcame so many difficulties. And I think that's when you say faith is contagious, because you see someone says, no, let's go and pray now, because everything is going to be all right. And then, even you go to pray with that person and you think, oh, yes, it's going to, because I don't know how to put it. It's like a light that the person has inside. That's that inner strength that really makes you feel safe, makes you feel that you can achieve anything. It gives you that, it's like awakens inside us the faith that we have as children of God. Because as children of God, as His creation, we are inheritors of the universe, and we don't know it. We doubt it. So I think it's contagious, I think, because when you find someone who has that faith, they awaken in you that power that we already have within. I feel that, when you find people who have real faith. Not, oh yeah, no, it's, there is no doubt about it there. That's strength and certainty. And they change, they change their minds, they change their opinion. They're not fixed, stuck in a rock.
Yeah.
If something different happens or something, they can change their mind about certain things, but they don't lose the path. And I think that's when it's contagious and touches you. And, like the gospel says, it touches even those who don't want to be touched by it. they say even those who don't desire it, they are touched by the faith. So
Yeah, like Charles says, this is contagious. How, let's say, what we need to say, not convince. For example, let's take the example of the centurion. He came to Jesus and said to him, "Hey, my servant, or my man,
my servant, yeah.
my servant, it is about to die. He's ill. Blah 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 blah." And then Jesus, "Oh, let's go and see him." And he said, "No, say a word, and I
And he'll
believe
be healed.
he'll be healed." Jesus said the word, and when he arrived, and when the centurion arrived, the servant was healed. How, this happened here in Ireland, for example? People are lack of faith. When we start to talk about spiritism, they don't have a faith. And many people asking me where, how to get it, where I find it. So the point I'm saying here is, when we want to engage in a conversation with someone about faith, how to run away from the jargons. Oh, you need to have faith in yourself.
No, I mean, I think one of the question is, where do I find faith? In your own heart. In your own heart. Because I think that's where you find faith. And, like you said, there is no jargon, there are no words, all you need to do, trust yourself. No, look at your heart. And see, you love your family, you love your children, people have that thing there. And because, especially in places where religion, the power of the religion's body, the church and everything was so destructive and so domineering for such a long time, is very difficult because a lot of people say, oh, they say this with one word, but they do something different. And that's another thing that Jesus warned, don't do what they do, they say something, but they do something else. And I think a lot of people, that's why they say they don't have faith. But they can have within themselves, in their own heart, they can. And I think I would say that to someone. I don't know what Charles thinks.
Yeah, Charles.
Yes, of course. It is, as I told, this trigger, this game changer somehow. And it is in ourselves. It's implying some courage of faith as well, in order to courage for the change also. Without this courage, we may miss a lot of opportunities, because I would like, adding on, I just what I said a little bit before, is to see the effects of the faith and demonstrating, look what the faith has enabled you to do. And this is also demonstrating and convincing the persons. And in the last paragraph of the chapter 19 of the Gospel, there is a communication from a spirit, which is finalizing like this. I just ask you a couple of seconds to read it. If all incarnates were fully convinced of the forces they bring within themselves, and if they wanted to utilize their willpower to put it to serve these forces, they would be able to accomplish that which till today are still called prodigies, but which nevertheless are nothing more than the development of the human faculties. And I think it's everything about that. Leon Denis is also insisting the power of our soul. There is so much power in our soul. We are capable of so many things, but we need to have the understanding and the faith in order to act our will and to utilize this immense power which is in our souls.
Yeah. We needed to. This show us how small, how long is our pathway to evolve. But we are there. We achieve.
I will get
But
there.
it's so interesting, this thing about faith and beliefs and things. There's a program that I watch. They're doing some scientific studies in this ranch in the north of America, where a lot of stuff happens, and they are working with cutting edge technology. I mean, cutting edge technology is amazing, but they were not going anywhere. So they called this rabbi, and he has this ancient prayer that he was singing the prayer, and all the stuff start happening, and they actually could see in their instruments change that had happened, like the temperature in this place went from, I think, 30 to 10, felt like 30 degrees, 20, 30 degrees. And they could read this in the instrument as this prayer was happening. So there was something there that was being affected by the prayer. And I find it is fascinating because, you have this very hardcore scientists working on this. They don't talk about God or anything, but it's, we can't do anything with the technology. Let's see if something happens. And it actually did happen. There were things that were actually being able to be measured in their electronic equipment, changes in temperature and movements and stuff. So I think, one of these things as well, that people eventually will be, if they need to, I don't think you need to convince anyone of faith, but some things like this will, make people think, that when you kind of can't do it scientifically, you can always pray. And it's something actually.
When the science doesn't work, start to pray,
Yeah, but the interesting thing is that, something did happen, and they could see, like this full temperature in the place, and they could read the transformation of the, in the computers and everything. So there you are. We're all learning all the time. This will convince someone.
Yeah, we have to.
Yeah.
We have to. We have.
If nothing else, we need to have faith in ourselves. That, like I said, we're good enough. We are good enough. We shouldn't compare ourselves to anybody, because every little thing we do, because, we tend to recall this, they're doing this big thing, but someone could not be doing the big things if we're not doing the small things in our turn. So everything is important, St. David, the patron saint of Wales, said to do the small things.
St. David?
Yeah, the patron saint of Wales, he used to say, do the small things. And it's true, because without the foundation, the most amazing architect, he could not build if they wouldn't put a proper foundation on the building, And I think that's what we need to do. Every little thing we do is important, because we are there at that moment in the right place, and we need to do that. I think so. Everything counts in the end.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, lovely.
Great. Good conversation today, my friends. We need to have faith in ourselves. We need to believe.
But the thing in the Civil War, with Cromwell, he said, have faith in God and keep your powder dry, because you need to help God as well,
Exactly. I like that.
Well, no, it's true. He used to tell, have faith in God and keep your powder dry.
Yeah. Otherwise, you cannot shoot. Yeah. Great. Okay. So, do you want to add anything else, Charles, or can I go to the announcements?
Yes, please. Go.
Yeah. Okay. Let me go to the announcements. So this is here. Okay. So next week, 26th of July, the man in the ward. The man in the ward. So what's our value here? What's our role here? What else? Good topic. I like it. So I hope to see you all next week to talk about it. So the study group on the spiritist psychology. So our friend Fabio Assunção has the details. The group is still going on. As far as I can see here, the group, the studies goes up to December. Every Saturday, 10:30 a.m., Charles, Munir, and Guilherme, they hold a course on the Medium's book. You have the link and the passcode to join the meeting. And also, every other Tuesday, Faye Waddington and Rafael Caldas, they hold the conversations on mediumship. And every Monday, Ebon Paris, she has a study on the book Astral City, or it is not solar. And that's it, my friends. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your faith.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here with me, my friends, and I'll see
For your
you
trust.
all next Wednesday.
Yes, have a good week, everyone. God
All
bless.
the best.
Thank
God
you.
bless.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Au revoir.
Bye-bye.